Walking into Dataflow Technologies that Monday morning, I had no idea it would be the day everything changed. The elevator hummed its familiar tune as I rode up to the 14th floor, clutching my coffee and mentally preparing for another day of keeping the company's analytical backbone functioning. Little did I know that within hours, those same systems I'd been nurturing for 3 years would become the center of a corporate storm that would reshape not just my career, but the entire future of the company. I'd love to know which corner of the globe you're watching from. And if this story speaks to you, make sure to subscribe. Tomorrow's video is one you absolutely can't miss. My name is Marcus Chen, and I've been a senior data analyst at Dataflow Technologies since 2021. Located in downtown Phoenix, Arizona, Dataflow specialized in providing real-time analytics solutions for mid-sized manufacturing companies across the Southwest. The company occupied 3 floors of a gleaming glass building, with our analytics department tucked away on the 14th floor. Far from the executive suites on the 16th. Dataflow wasn't a household name, but in our niche, we were essential. Manufacturing plants relied on our predictive maintenance algorithms to prevent costly equipment failures. Our demand forecasting models helped companies optimize their inventory levels, saving millions in carrying costs. The revenue optimization tools we developed could increase a client's profit margins by 15 to 20% within the first year of implementation. When I started at Dataflow, the company had just 60 employees. The analytics team consisted of myself, 2 other analysts, and our department head, Patricia Vance. Patricia was a brilliant woman in her early 50s who had previously worked at IBM before joining Dataflow's startup journey. She understood both the technical complexities of our work and the business implications of our models. Under her guidance, our small team had built something remarkable. The heart of our operation was the Integrated Analytics Platform, or IAP as we called it. Internally, this wasn't just software we had purchased off the shelf. Over the course of 2.5 years, we had developed a sophisticated ecosystem of interconnected systems that could ingest data from dozens of different sources, clean and standardize it, run complex analytical models, and deliver actionable insights to our clients in real time. Building the IAP had been like constructing a digital cathedral. Every component had to work in perfect harmony with every other component. The data ingestion layer needed to handle everything from modern API feeds to legacy CSV uploads from clients still using systems from the 1990s. Our processing engine had to be robust enough to handle massive datasets while remaining flexible enough to accommodate the unique requirements of each client. The machine learning models we developed were the crown jewels of the system. Patricia and I had spent countless late nights fine-tuning algorithms that could predict equipment failures with 87% accuracy. Our demand forecasting models consistently outperformed industry benchmarks by 12 to 15%. The pricing optimization algorithms we created had helped one client increase their quarterly revenue by $2.3 million. What made our system truly special wasn't just its technical capabilities, but how we had designed it to be maintainable and scalable. Every piece of code was meticulously documented. We had built comprehensive testing suites that ran automatically whenever changes were made. The architecture was modular, meaning individual components could be updated or replaced without affecting the entire system. By early 2024, Dataflow had grown to nearly 200 employees. Our client base had expanded from 12 manufacturing companies to over 80. The analytics department had grown as well, now consisting of 8 team members including Patricia. We had moved to a larger space within the building, complete with a dedicated server room and multiple workstations equipped with high-end processing capabilities. The success of our analytics platform had not gone unnoticed. Industry publications featured articles about Dataflow's innovative approaches to manufacturing analytics. We had won 3 industry awards, including the prestigious Innovation in Industrial Analytics award from the Manufacturing Technology Institute. Patricia had been invited to speak at conferences across the country, sharing insights about how mid-sized companies could leverage advanced analytics to compete with industry giants. Revenue from our analytics services accounted for nearly 70% of Dataflow's total income by the spring of 2024. The predictable, recurring nature of our client relationships provided the company with a stable financial foundation that allowed other departments to pursue more experimental ventures. Our success had enabled Dataflow to expand into adjacent markets and develop new product lines. Despite our success, life in the analytics department remained relatively quiet. We worked closely with clients, understanding their unique challenges and customizing our solutions accordingly. Patricia shielded us from much of the corporate politics that seemed to swirl around other departments. Our focus remained on the work itself, improving our models, expanding our capabilities, and ensuring our clients received maximum value from our services. The work was intellectually stimulating and deeply satisfying. Each client presented unique puzzles to solve. Peterson Manufacturing needed help optimizing their supply chain to reduce waste in their automotive parts production. Sunrise Foods required demand forecasting models that could account for seasonal variations in their specialty snack products. Desert Steel Works wanted predictive maintenance systems that could identify potential failures in their high-temperature processing equipment. Solving these challenges required not just technical expertise, but deep understanding of each client's business operations. I often spent days on-site at client facilities, observing their processes firsthand and talking with operators, supervisors, and managers to understand the nuances of their operations. This field work informed the development of our models, ensuring they addressed real-world problems rather than theoretical scenarios. The relationships we built with clients extended far beyond typical vendor-customer interactions. We became trusted advisors, partners in their operational improvement initiatives. When Peterson Manufacturing was considering a major equipment upgrade, they consulted with us about the analytical implications. When Sunrise Foods was planning their expansion into new markets, our demand forecasting expertise helped guide their decision-making process. Our team had developed a reputation for reliability and expertise that extended throughout the industry. Referrals from existing clients accounted for nearly 40% of our new business. Manufacturing executives would specifically request to work with Dataflow because they had heard about our results from their colleagues at other companies. The technical infrastructure we had built was equally impressive. Our server room housed custom-built machines optimized for the specific computational requirements of our analytical workloads. We had redundant systems in place to ensure continuous operation even if individual components failed. Our data security protocols exceeded industry standards, protecting our clients' sensitive operational information. The IAP could process over 50 million data points per hour during peak operations. Our real-time dashboards updated every 30 seconds, providing clients with immediate visibility into their operations. The system maintained detailed audit trails, ensuring complete transparency about how insights were generated and what data was used in each analysis. Behind the scenes, maintaining this complex ecosystem required constant attention. Database performance needed to be monitored and optimized. Model accuracy had to be continuously evaluated and improved. New client integrations required careful testing to ensure they didn't impact existing operations. Software updates needed to be thoroughly vetted before deployment to production systems. Patricia had taught me to think of our role not just as analysts, but as stewards of a critical business asset. The IAP wasn't just software, it was the foundation upon which Dataflow's success was built. Every decision we made about system architecture, every line of code we wrote, every model we deployed had implications that extended far beyond our department. This perspective shaped how I approached my work. I didn't just write code, I crafted solutions that would remain stable and performant for years to come. I didn't just build models, I created analytical frameworks that could adapt to changing business requirements. I didn't just process data. I transformed raw information into strategic advantages for our clients. The culture within our analytics team reflected this sense of responsibility. We reviewed each other's work carefully, not out of distrust, but out of recognition that small errors could have significant consequences. We documented our processes thoroughly, ensuring that knowledge wasn't trapped in any single person's head. We invested time in training and development, staying current with emerging techniques and technologies. By the summer of 2024, I had become one of the most senior members of the analytics team. Patricia increasingly relied on me to lead complex client projects and mentor newer team members. I had developed expertise in multiple aspects of the IAP, from the low-level data processing components to the high-level business intelligence interfaces. My role had evolved beyond pure analysis to include system architecture decisions, client relationship management, and strategic planning for the department's future direction. I participated in discussions about new market opportunities, evaluated potential technology partnerships, and contributed to the company's long-term analytical roadmap. The work remained challenging and engaging. Each day brought new problems to solve, new insights to uncover, and new opportunities to create value for our clients. The combination of technical complexity and business impact made every project meaningful. We weren't just processing numbers, we were helping companies operate more efficiently, reduce waste, and improve their competitive positions. Looking back, the period from late 2021 through mid-2024 represented the golden age of Dataflow's analytics department. We had the right combination of talented people, sophisticated technology, and supportive leadership. Our clients trusted us, our systems performed reliably, and our contributions to the company's success were both substantial and recognized. Patricia often reminded us that our success created both opportunities and responsibilities. The more Critical our systems became to data flow's operations, the more important it became for us to maintain the highest standards of quality and reliability. We couldn't afford to become complacent or take shortcuts, because too many people depended on our work. This sense of responsibility extended to how we planned for the future. We regularly conducted scenario planning exercises, considering how changes in technology, market conditions, or business strategy might affect our operations. We maintained detailed documentation about our systems and processes, ensuring that institutional knowledge wouldn't be lost if key team members left the company. We also invested in continuous improvement initiatives. Patricia encouraged us to spend 20% of our time on exploratory projects that might lead to breakthrough capabilities. These investigations led to several significant innovations, including new approaches to real-time anomaly detection and advanced forecasting techniques that could account for complex interaction effects. The relationships within our team were built on mutual respect and shared commitment to excellence. We challenged each other's ideas constructively, collaborated effectively on complex projects, and supported each other through difficult technical challenges. The team felt more like a close-knit research group than a traditional corporate department. This collaborative culture extended to our interactions with other departments within data flow. We worked closely with the sales team to understand client requirements and develop proposals for new projects. We partnered with the IT department to ensure our systems integrated smoothly with data flow's broader technology infrastructure. We collaborated with the customer success team to ensure our analytical insights translated into tangible business value for clients. A lot of love and effort went into bringing this story to life. If you're enjoying it, we'd be so grateful if you'd subscribe to our channel. Now, back to where we left off. The foundation we had built seemed solid and sustainable. Our technology was robust, our processes were mature, our client relationships were strong, and our team was performing at the highest level. Dataflow's leadership regularly praised our contributions and supported our initiatives with necessary resources and executive attention. None of us anticipated how quickly and dramatically everything would change. The systems we had spent years perfecting, the relationships we had carefully cultivated, and the reputation we had earned would all be put to the ultimate test. The real story was just beginning to unfold, and it would challenge everything we thought we knew about our place within Dataflow Technologies. Everything changed on a Tuesday morning in late August 2024. I was running diagnostics on our primary processing cluster when my phone buzzed with an urgent message from Patricia. Emergency meeting in conference room C. Now. The tone was uncharacteristic of her usual measured communication style, immediately setting off alarm bells in my mind. Conference room C was located on the 15th floor, neutral territory between our analytics department and the executive offices above. As I stepped off the elevator, I could already hear raised voices through the supposedly soundproof glass walls. Patricia sat at the far end of the table, her usually composed demeanor showing cracks of visible stress. Across from her sat two people I recognized but had rarely interacted with directly. The first was Jonathan Blackwood, Dataflow's chief financial officer. Blackwood had joined the company 18 months earlier, recruited from a large consulting firm in Chicago. He was known throughout the company for his aggressive cost-cutting initiatives and his belief that every department should justify its existence through immediate, measurable returns on investment. His reputation for eliminating what he considered redundant positions had already resulted in layoffs in the marketing and human resources departments. Beside him sat Rebecca Nash, the newly appointed chief technology officer. Nash had arrived just 3 months prior, brought in from a Silicon Valley tech giant with a mandate to modernize Dataflow's technology stack and streamline operations for scale. Her background was in enterprise software development, with little direct experience in analytics or manufacturing systems. Since her arrival, she had been conducting what she called efficiency assessments across all technical departments. Patricia gestured for me to take a seat as Blackwood continued his presentation. Spread across the table were printed reports, financial projections, and what appeared to be organizational charts with red lines drawn through various positions. The atmosphere in the room felt charged with tension, like the moments before a thunderstorm breaks. As I was explaining to Patricia, Blackwood said, adjusting his wire-rimmed glasses, "The board has asked us to evaluate every aspect of our operations with fresh eyes. We need to ensure that Dataflow is positioned for aggressive growth while maintaining optimal profit margins." His voice carried the clipped precision of someone accustomed to making decisions based purely on spreadsheet calculations. Nash leaned forward, her laptop open to what appeared to be a competitive analysis presentation. "The market has evolved significantly since your analytics platform was first developed," she said, directing her comments toward Patricia. "There are now numerous cloud-based solutions that can provide similar capabilities at a fraction of the cost. Software as a service platforms from companies like Tableau, Power BI, and specialized manufacturing analytics providers offer pre-built solutions that clients can implement immediately. I felt my stomach drop as I began to understand the direction of this conversation. Patricia's expression remained professionally neutral, but I could see the tension in her shoulders as she prepared to defend not just our department, but our entire approach to serving clients. These off-the-shelf solutions might appear cost-effective on paper, Patricia responded carefully, but they lack the deep customization and integration capabilities that our clients require. Manufacturing operations are highly specialized. Generic dashboards and standard algorithms simply cannot address the complex, industry-specific challenges that our platform solves every day. Blackwood consulted one of his reports before responding. According to our analysis, the total cost of maintaining your current analytics team, including salaries, benefits, server infrastructure, and software licenses, approaches $2.8 million annually. Meanwhile, enterprise subscriptions to cloud-based analytics platforms would cost approximately $400,000 per year for our entire client base. The numbers hit like a physical blow. I knew that Blackwood's calculation was deliberately misleading. It compared our internal costs to hypothetical external subscription fees without accounting for implementation, customization, integration, or the inevitable additional costs that would arise when generic solutions failed to meet specific client requirements. But presented in isolation, the financial comparison appeared damning. Nash opened a new tab on her laptop, revealing screenshots of various analytics platforms. Modern SaaS solutions offer drag-and-drop interface builders, pre-configured industry templates, and automatic updates that eliminate the need for ongoing maintenance. Clients can access their analytics through web browsers from anywhere in the world, with no need for dedicated server infrastructure or specialized technical support. I couldn't remain silent any longer. Those platforms might work for basic reporting, but they can't handle the sophisticated modeling we provide. Our predictive maintenance algorithms process real-time sensor data from manufacturing equipment, identifying patterns that indicate potential failures weeks before they occur. Generic platforms don't have the computational power or specialized algorithms necessary for that level of analysis. Blackwood's expression suggested he had expected this objection. Marcus, I appreciate your technical expertise, but we need to consider the broader business implications. Clients are increasingly looking for solutions they can manage independently, without requiring specialized consulting services. Self-service analytics platforms allow them to generate their own insights without ongoing dependence on external providers. This fundamental misunderstanding of our value proposition was deeply troubling. Our clients didn't want self-service analytics, they wanted results. They hired Dataflow precisely because they lacked the internal expertise to develop and maintain sophisticated analytical capabilities. The idea that a manufacturing plant manager could replace our custom algorithms with drag-and-drop interfaces demonstrated a profound disconnect from the realities of industrial operations. Patricia attempted to redirect the conversation toward concrete examples. Let me walk you through a specific case study that illustrates the limitations of generic solutions. Last month, we helped Pinnacle Manufacturing identify a subtle correlation between humidity levels in their facility and defect rates in their injection molding process. This insight required analyzing 3 years of production data alongside environmental sensor readings, accounting for seasonal variations, equipment age, and raw material suppliers. She pulled up a detailed report on her tablet, showing complex statistical analyses and predictive models. Our custom algorithms identified that defect rates increased by 12% when humidity exceeded 68% during specific temperature ranges, but only for parts produced on machines manufactured before 2018 using certain polymer formulations. This discovery allowed Pinnacle to adjust their climate control systems and reduce defect rates by 37%, saving them approximately $180,000 quarterly. Nash scrolled through several analytics platform demos on her laptop. I'm sure these commercial platforms could identify similar correlations using their built-in statistical functions. Modern business intelligence tools include sophisticated correlation analysis capabilities that can process multiple variables simultaneously. I shook my head, realizing that Nash didn't understand the fundamental difference between correlation analysis and the causal modeling we provided. Identifying correlations is just the beginning. The real value comes from understanding why those correlations exist and how to act on them. Our models account for dozens of confounding variables, seasonal adjustments, and complex interaction effects. We don't just tell clients that humidity affects defect rates, we provide precise recommendations about optimal environmental conditions for specific manufacturing scenarios. The conversation continued for another 40 minutes, with Patricia and I providing increasingly detailed examples of our platform's capabilities while Blackwood and Nash countered with cost comparisons and claims about the simplicity of commercial alternatives. It became clear that we were talking past each other, operating from fundamentally different assumptions about what clients needed and valued. Finally, Blackwood closed his laptop and gathered his papers. I appreciate the technical discussion, but the board's directive is clear. We need to evaluate every aspect of our operations for efficiency and scalability. Patricia, I'll need you to prepare a comprehensive report documenting all of your department's activities, including detailed justifications for each team member's role and contributions. Nash added, I'll also need complete technical documentation for your analytics platform, including source code, database schemas, and operational procedures. We need to understand exactly what would be required to transition clients to commercial alternatives or to maintain the current system with a reduced team size. After Blackwood and Nash left, Patricia and I sat in stunned silence for several minutes. The implications of the conversation were becoming clear, even though the immediate threat remained somewhat abstract. The company's new leadership was fundamentally questioning the value of our entire approach to analytics, viewing our custom-built solutions as expensive luxuries rather than strategic advantages. This is worse than I anticipated, Patricia finally said, her voice heavy with concern. I knew that Blackwood had been pressuring all departments to justify their costs, but I didn't realize they were seriously considering such drastic changes to our operations. Over the following weeks, the atmosphere within our analytics department became increasingly tense. Patricia spent most of her time preparing reports and documentation requested by the executive team, while the rest of us continued serving clients and maintaining our systems. However, everyone could sense that significant changes were coming. The first concrete sign of trouble appeared in early September, when 2 members of our team were informed that their positions were being restructured as part of a company-wide efficiency initiative. Sarah Kim and David Rodriguez, both talented analysts who had been with Dataflow for over 2 years, were given 30 days' notice. The official explanation was that their responsibilities would be redistributed among remaining team members. To improve operational efficiency, losing Sarah and David was devastating, not just personally but operationally. Sarah had been our primary expert in supply chain optimization models, while David specialized in quality control analytics. Their departures left significant gaps in our capabilities that couldn't be easily filled by reassigning work to other team members. More concerning was the message these layoffs sent about the company's priorities. Rather than viewing our analytics team as essential to Dataflow's success, leadership apparently saw us as a cost center that could be reduced without significant consequences. The idea that complex analytical work could simply be redistributed suggested a fundamental misunderstanding of the expertise required to maintain our systems and serve our clients effectively. Client relationships began showing signs of strain as our reduced team struggled to maintain previous service levels. Response times for technical support requests increased from hours to days. Scheduled model updates were delayed as we prioritized critical maintenance tasks. Several clients expressed concerns about the continuity of services, having noticed the departure of analysts they had worked with directly. Patricia tried to shield the remaining team members from the worst of the corporate pressure, but the stress was clearly taking its toll. She worked increasingly long hours, attending meetings with executives while simultaneously trying to maintain oversight of our client projects. Dark circles under her eyes and the growing stack of antacid tablets on her desk told the story of someone under enormous pressure. The technical infrastructure we had built began showing signs of neglect as well. With fewer people available to monitor and maintain our systems, small problems that would have been quickly resolved in the past began accumulating. Database performance degraded slightly as routine optimization tasks were deferred. Model accuracy metrics showed minor but noticeable declines as regular recalibration procedures were postponed to focus on more urgent priorities. Industry colleagues began reaching out with questions about Dataflow stability. Word was spreading through professional networks that the company was undergoing significant internal changes. Several competitors started approaching our clients directly, suggesting that Dataflow might not be able to maintain service levels during the transition period. The situation reached a critical point in mid-September when Pinnacle Manufacturing, one of our largest and most successful clients, informed us that they were evaluating alternative analytics providers due to concerns about service continuity. This was exactly the kind of client defection that could trigger a broader exodus, potentially destroying years of relationship building and reputation development. Patricia called an emergency team meeting to address the growing crisis. The remaining 6 members of our analytics department gathered in our conference room, the absence of Sarah and David making the space feel uncomfortably empty. I'm not going to sugarcoat the situation, Patricia began, her usual diplomatic approach replaced by stark honesty. Leadership is questioning the fundamental value of our approach to analytics. They believe that commercial software solutions can replace what we've built, and they're under pressure from the board to reduce costs wherever possible. She continued, "What they don't understand is that our value isn't just in the software we've created, but in the expertise we've developed and the relationships we've built with clients. You can't replace 3 years of learning about a client's operations with a software subscription, no matter how sophisticated the platform might be." The discussion that followed was sobering. Each team member shared examples of recent challenges caused by our reduced capacity and the growing pressure to cut corners. It became clear that we were approaching a tipping point where service quality would begin declining noticeably, potentially triggering the very client defections that leadership feared. That evening, I stayed late in the office, reviewing system logs and performance metrics. The data told a clear story. Our analytics platform was still performing brilliantly from a technical perspective, but the human infrastructure that supported it was beginning to crumble. Complex systems require constant attention from knowledgeable experts, and we no longer had sufficient expertise to maintain our previous standards. As I sat alone in the darkened office, surrounded by the quiet hum of servers that contained years of our collective work, I realized that we were facing more than just budget cuts or organizational restructuring. We were confronting a fundamental clash between two different visions of how technology should serve business objectives. On one side was our approach, deeply customized, relationship-driven, expertise-intensive solutions that delivered exceptional results through continuous refinement and close client partnerships. On the other side was the leadership's vision, standardized, cost-efficient, scalable solutions that could be deployed quickly and managed with minimal human intervention. Both approaches had merit in different contexts, but they were largely incompatible. The question was whether Dataflow's leadership would recognize the unique value we provided before making changes that could irreversibly damage the company's competitive advantages in the manufacturing analytics market. The answer to that question would determine not just my own career trajectory, but the future of every client relationship we had built and every system we had created. The storm clouds that had been gathering were about to unleash their full fury, and none of us were prepared for what was coming next. October arrived with an unexpected crisis that would test every assumption the executive team had made about our analytics platform. At 3:47 a.m. on a Thursday morning, my phone exploded with emergency alerts from our monitoring systems. Multiple clients were experiencing simultaneous failures in their predictive maintenance algorithms, and the cascade effect was threatening to bring down our entire processing infrastructure. I threw on clothes and raced to the office, my mind already running through potential causes and solutions. The elevator ride to the 14th floor felt endless as I watched alert notifications pile up on my phone. By the time I reached our department, the scope of the crisis was becoming clear. This wasn't just a technical glitch, but a fundamental system failure that could destroy years of client relationships overnight. The server room was already crowded when I arrived. Patricia stood hunched over a terminal, her fingers flying across the keyboard as she tried to isolate the source of the problem. Tom Bradley, our senior systems administrator, was simultaneously managing 3 different monitoring dashboards while coordinating with our hosting provider. The remaining members of our reduced team were scattered across workstations, each focusing on different aspects of the emergency response. "What's the status?" I asked, immediately diving into the primary diagnostic interface. "We're looking at a cascading failure that started in the real-time processing cluster," Patricia replied without looking up from her screen. "It began with Mountain View Steel's morning data ingestion, but it's spreading to other clients' systems. The failure pattern doesn't match anything we've seen before." I pulled up the error logs and began tracing the sequence of events. What I found was deeply troubling. The failure wasn't caused by a single technical problem, but by the accumulation of multiple small issues that had been building up over the past month. Database queries that had been running slower due to deferred optimization. Memory management problems that had been temporarily patched rather than properly resolved. Network timeout issues that had been worked around rather than fixed at the root level. "This is what I was afraid of," I muttered, showing Patricia the diagnostic data. "We've been running on borrowed time since the team reductions. All these small problems we've been deferring have finally reached a critical mass." The next 6 hours were a frantic race against time. We had to not only fix the immediate technical problems, but also manage communications with increasingly panicked clients whose operations were being disrupted. Mountain View Steel's production line had shut down automatically when our predictive maintenance system failed to provide expected equipment status updates. Desert Fabrication's quality control processes were paralyzed without real-time defect prediction data. Copper Canyon Manufacturing was facing potential safety violations because their hazard detection algorithms weren't receiving sensor data. By 10 a.m., we had managed to restore basic functionality to most client systems, but the damage was already done. Our phones rang constantly with angry calls from plant managers and operations directors. Several clients demanded immediate explanations for the service disruption, while others began discussing penalty clauses in their service agreements. The executive team's response was swift and predictable. At 11:30 a.m., Blackwood and Nash appeared in our department, flanked by two people I didn't recognize. The atmosphere was tense as they surveyed the controlled chaos of our emergency response efforts. "I need a full explanation of this morning's events," Blackwood announced, his voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to immediate answers. "This kind of service disruption is completely unacceptable, especially given the resources we've invested in your department." Patricia looked up from her terminal, exhaustion evident in her expression. "We're dealing with a complex systems failure that resulted from multiple contributing factors. The team is working to complete the recovery process and prevent similar issues in the future." Nash stepped forward, her laptop already open to what appeared to be incident reports from commercial analytics platforms. "This is exactly why we need to transition to proven, enterprise-grade solutions. Cloud-based platforms have built-in redundancy and professional support teams that prevent these kinds of catastrophic failures." I couldn't help but respond, despite the political sensitivity of the situation. Cloud platforms experience outages, too, often affecting thousands of clients simultaneously. When Amazon Web Services goes down, it takes half the internet with it. At least when our systems have problems, we have direct control over the recovery process. One of the unfamiliar faces stepped forward, a woman in her 40s wearing an expensive suit and carrying a tablet filled with technical documentation. "I'm Jennifer Walsh from Stratton Consulting. We've been retained to conduct an independent assessment of Dataflow's technical infrastructure and recommend optimization strategies." The presence of external consultants was ominous. Companies typically brought in consulting firms when they had already decided to make major changes but wanted third-party validation for their decisions. Walsh's reputation in the industry was for aggressive cost-cutting recommendations that prioritized short-term financial gains over long-term operational stability. Walsh began asking detailed questions about our system architecture, staffing levels, and operational procedures. Her questions revealed a sophisticated understanding of analytics platforms, but also a clear bias toward standardized solutions over custom implementations. She seemed particularly interested in documenting the complexity of our current systems, likely to support arguments that simpler alternatives would be more reliable. "How many hours per week does your team spend on system maintenance tasks?" Walsh asked, taking notes on her tablet. "It varies depending on client needs and system updates," Patricia replied carefully. "We prioritize proactive maintenance to prevent problems rather than reactive repairs after failures occur." "But surely you can quantify the basic maintenance overhead," Walsh pressed. "How much time is spent on routine tasks that could be eliminated by migrating to a managed service platform?" The questioning continued for over an hour, with Walsh systematically documenting every aspect of our operations that could be characterized as inefficient or unnecessarily complex. Her approach was methodical and professional, but the underlying agenda was clear. She was building a case for dismantling our current approach in favor of commercial alternatives. After the executives and consultants left, our team gathered for an emergency meeting. The morning's crisis had demonstrated both our capabilities and our vulnerabilities. We had successfully resolved a complex technical problem under extreme pressure, but the underlying causes of that problem were directly related to the resource constraints imposed by recent budget cuts. "We need to be realistic about our situation," Patricia said, addressing the exhausted team. "This morning's incident will be used as evidence that our approach is too complex and unreliable. We need to prepare for the possibility that leadership will use this as justification for major changes to our department." The following week brought a series of client meetings that would determine the future of our relationships and, by extension, the value of our analytics platform. Patricia and I spent most of our time traveling to client sites, providing detailed explanations of the service disruption and outlining steps we were taking to prevent similar problems. The conversations were challenging but ultimately productive. Most clients understood that complex systems occasionally experience problems, and they were impressed by our rapid response and transparent communication. Several clients actually strengthened their relationships with Dataflow, appreciating the personal attention and technical expertise we provided during the crisis. However, the executive team's interpretation of these client interactions was markedly different. Rather than viewing our successful crisis management as evidence of our value, they seemed to focus on the disruption itself as proof that change was necessary. The pivotal moment came during a board meeting in late October. Patricia had been asked to present a comprehensive report on the October incident, including root cause analysis and prevention strategies. I was invited to provide technical details and answer questions about our operational procedures. The data flow boardroom was located on the 17th floor, with floor-to-ceiling windows offering panoramic views of downtown Phoenix. The conference table was surrounded by 12 leather chairs, most of which were occupied by board members I recognized only from corporate headshots in the company lobby. At the head of the table sat Robert Kellerman, Dataflow's CEO. Kellerman had founded the company 8 years earlier and had been instrumental in its growth from a small startup to a major player in the manufacturing analytics market. However, his background was in sales and business development rather than technology, and he relied heavily on his executive team for technical guidance. Kellerman opened the meeting with comments about the importance of reliability and client satisfaction. The October incident was a wake-up call about the risks of maintaining overly complex internal systems. We need to ensure that data flow's infrastructure can support continued growth without exposing us to unnecessary operational risks. Patricia's presentation was thorough and professional, explaining the technical causes of the October failure while emphasizing the proactive measures we were implementing to prevent similar problems. She highlighted our successful client retention efforts and the positive feedback we had received about our crisis response. The incident demonstrated both the challenges and the strengths of our current approach, Patricia concluded. Yes, complex systems require careful maintenance, but they also provide capabilities that generic solutions simply cannot match. Our clients value the deep expertise and customization we provide, which is why they remained loyal even during a difficult period. Blackwood's response was immediate and pointed. Patricia, I appreciate your team's efforts during the crisis, but we need to consider the broader implications. The October incident cost us approximately $340,000 in client credits and emergency response costs. Meanwhile, enterprise subscriptions to cloud-based platforms include guaranteed uptime and professional support that would have prevented this entire situation. Nash supported Blackwood's position with detailed comparisons of commercial platform capabilities. Modern analytics platforms offer enterprise-grade reliability with built-in redundancy and professional monitoring. They can provide most of the same insights as your custom system, but with guaranteed availability and predictable costs. The board members asked numerous questions about our technical approach, operational costs, and future scalability. Several members seemed genuinely interested in understanding the trade-offs between custom and commercial solutions, but others appeared to have already made up their minds based on financial considerations. The turning point came when Jennifer Walsh presented her consulting firm's findings. Her report was comprehensive and damning, characterizing our analytics platform as a legacy system that has grown beyond manageable complexity and recommending immediate migration to proven commercial solutions to reduce operational risks and costs. Walsh's presentation included detailed cost projections showing potential savings of over $2 million annually through platform migration and staff reductions. Her analysis painted our custom approach as an expensive indulgence that provided marginal benefits compared to commercial alternatives. The current analytics team represents a significant concentration of institutional knowledge and operational risk, Walsh concluded. Migrating to commercial platforms would eliminate this dependency while providing more reliable service to clients. I requested permission to respond to Walsh's findings, knowing that this might be our only opportunity to present a comprehensive defense of our approach. The next 20 minutes were crucial as I systematically addressed each of Walsh's criticisms and provided concrete examples of capabilities that commercial platforms could not replicate. Commercial platforms excel at standard reporting and basic analytics, I explained, but they cannot handle the sophisticated modeling that drives real value for our clients. The predictive maintenance algorithms we've developed for Desert Steel Works have prevented over 200 equipment failures in the past year, saving them approximately $1.8 million in downtime costs. No commercial platform includes the specialized domain knowledge required to build and maintain these models. I continued with additional examples, demonstrating how our custom approach provided competitive advantages that clients could not obtain elsewhere. The board members listened attentively, asking detailed questions about specific technical capabilities and business benefits. However, I could sense that the financial arguments were carrying more weight than the technical ones. When Walsh showed projected cost savings of over $2 million annually, the board members' expressions suggested they were more interested in those numbers than in the technical nuances of our platform. The meeting concluded without immediate decisions, but the direction was becoming clear. Kellerman thanked both Patricia and me for our presentations, while also acknowledging the consulting firm's recommendations. We'll be reviewing all of this information carefully and making decisions that are in the best long-term interests of Dataflow and our clients. As we left the boardroom, Patricia and I both understood that we had probably just attended the funeral for our analytics department. The combination of cost pressures, external consulting recommendations, and recent operational problems had created a perfect storm that would likely result in fundamental changes to our approach. The next few days passed in a strange limbo. We continued serving clients and maintaining our systems, but everyone in the department could sense that major announcements were imminent. The atmosphere was heavy with uncertainty and apprehension. On a Friday afternoon in early November, Kellerman called an all-hands meeting for the entire company. The main conference room was packed with nearly 200 employees, all eager to hear about the strategic decisions that had been under discussion for months. What happened next would change everything, not just for our analytics department, but for my entire understanding of corporate decision-making and the true value of expertise in the modern business world. The CEO's announcement would set in motion a series of events that none of us could have predicted, ultimately leading to the most challenging and transformative period of my career. The all-hands meeting began promptly at 3 p.m., with employees filing into the main conference room and spilling over into adjacent spaces connected by video feed. The energy in the room was electric with anticipation and anxiety. Rumors had been circulating for weeks about major organizational changes, and everyone knew that today would bring definitive answers. Robert Kellerman stood at the front of the room, flanked by his executive team including Blackwood and Nash. His usual confident demeanor seemed slightly strained, suggesting that even he understood the magnitude of the decisions being announced. A large presentation screen displayed the Dataflow logo alongside the meeting agenda, strategic realignment for accelerated growth. Today marks a pivotal moment in Dataflow's evolution, Kellerman began, his voice carrying throughout the packed room. Over the past 8 years, we've built something remarkable together. We've grown from a small startup to a major player in the manufacturing analytics space, serving over 80 clients across the Southwest. He clicked to the next slide, showing impressive growth statistics and revenue projections. However, success brings new challenges. Our board of directors has challenged us to think bigger, to position Dataflow for national expansion and eventual market leadership. This requires us to make some difficult but necessary changes to how we operate. The presentation continued with slides about market opportunities, competitive pressures, and the need for scalable solutions. Kellerman spoke about the importance of standardization, efficiency, and leveraging proven technologies rather than maintaining custom solutions that required specialized expertise. After extensive analysis and consultation with industry experts, Kellerman said, advancing to a slide titled Technology Modernization Initiative, we've decided to migrate our analytics capabilities to best-in-class commercial platforms. This will allow us to serve clients more efficiently while reducing operational complexity and costs. A murmur rippled through the audience as the implications became clear. Several people turned to look at our analytics team, recognizing that this announcement directly targeted our department. Patricia sat perfectly still, her expression unreadable, but I could see her hands clenched tightly in her lap. Nash took over the presentation to explain the technical details of the transition plan. We'll be implementing a phased migration to cloud-based analytics platforms over the next 6 months. These enterprise solutions offer superior reliability, automatic updates, and scalable infrastructure that can support our growth ambitions. She displayed screenshots of various commercial platforms, highlighting features like drag-and-drop report builders, pre-configured industry templates, and automated machine learning capabilities. Modern analytics platforms have matured significantly in recent years. They can provide most of the same insights as our current custom system, but with much lower maintenance overhead and more predictable costs. Blackwood presented the financial justification for the changes, showing projected cost savings and improved profit margins. This initiative will reduce our annual technology costs by approximately $2.1 million while positioning us for more aggressive client acquisition. We'll be able to offer competitive pricing while maintaining healthy margins. The presentation continued for another 20 minutes, covering implementation timelines, client transition plans, and the inevitable discussion of organizational changes. Kellerman returned to the podium for the most difficult part of the announcement. These technology changes will unfortunately require us to restructure our analytics team, he said, his voice taking on a more somber tone. While we deeply appreciate the contributions our analytics team has made to Dataflow's success, the new platform-based approach will require different skills and fewer personnel. He paused, allowing the weight of his words to settle over the room. We'll be retaining 2 analytics team members to manage client relationships and oversee the transition to commercial platforms. Other team members will have the opportunity to apply for positions in different departments, though we cannot guarantee placement for everyone. The room fell silent as employees processed the implications. Patricia and our remaining team members were being told that their years of expertise and institutional knowledge were no longer valued by the company they had helped build. The systems we had created, the client relationships we had cultivated, and the competitive advantages we had developed were being discarded in favor of generic solutions and cost savings. During the question and answer session that followed, several employees asked about the decision-making process and whether alternatives had been considered. Kellerman and his team provided polished responses about the need for difficult decisions and the importance of positioning Dataflow for future success. Finally, Tom Bradley from our analytics team raised his hand. Has leadership considered the potential impact on client relationships? Many of our clients have specifically praised the custom solutions and personal attention they receive from our current team. Nash fielded the question with practiced confidence. We've conducted extensive research on client satisfaction and requirements. Modern analytics platforms can provide excellent user experiences with standardized interfaces that clients can manage independently. This actually improves their operational flexibility by reducing dependence on external consultants. I felt compelled to respond, despite the potential career consequences. With respect, that research might not capture the full picture. Our value isn't just in providing analytics software, it's in understanding each client's unique operational challenges and developing tailored solutions. Generic platforms can't replicate the domain expertise we've built over years of working closely with manufacturing operations. The room grew tense as Kellerman's expression hardened. This was clearly not the type of challenge he had expected during what was supposed to be a straightforward announcement meeting. Marcus, I appreciate your perspective, but these decisions have been made after careful consideration of all factors. We need to focus on solutions that can scale with our growth plans. But what happens when clients encounter problems that the commercial platforms can't solve? I pressed, knowing I was probably ending my career at Dataflow but feeling compelled to voice these concerns. When Desert Steel Works needs to optimize their heat treatment processes, or when Pinnacle Manufacturing requires custom correlation analysis for their quality control systems. Blackwood intervened before Kellerman could respond. Those are exactly the kinds of overly specialized requirements that prevent us from scaling efficiently. We need to help clients standardize their operations rather than enabling custom solutions that create ongoing dependencies. The fundamental disconnect was now completely clear. Leadership viewed our custom approach as a liability rather than an asset, seeing specialization as inefficiency rather than expertise. They believed that clients would be better served by standardized solutions that they could manage independently, without understanding that many of our clients lacked the internal capabilities to use such tools effectively. Furthermore, Nash added, commercial platforms are continuously updated with the latest analytical techniques and industry best practices. Maintaining custom solutions means falling behind the cutting edge of analytics technology. This statement revealed another misunderstanding of our work. Commercial platforms might include the latest generic algorithms, but they couldn't incorporate the specialized domain knowledge we had developed for specific manufacturing processes. Our competitive advantage wasn't in using the newest techniques, but in applying the right techniques to solve specific problems that our clients faced. The meeting concluded with Kellerman reiterating the company's commitment to supporting affected employees during the transition period. We'll be providing severance packages, job placement assistance, and references for team members who aren't retained in new roles. We value the contributions everyone has made to Dataflow's success. As employees filed out of the conference room, the atmosphere was heavy with shock and disappointment. Many people approached members of our analytics team to express support and disbelief about the decision. It was clear that the announcement had surprised not just our department, but much of the company. Patricia gathered our remaining team in a small conference room for a private discussion. Her composure finally cracked as she addressed the people who had worked so hard to build something exceptional. I want you all to know that I fought for our approach every step of the way. The decision to eliminate our department wasn't made lightly, but it was made without fully understanding what we've accomplished here. The conversation that followed was emotional and practical. We discussed the transition timeline, client communication strategies, and individual career options. Some team members expressed interest in applying for positions in other departments, while others planned to seek opportunities elsewhere in the industry. What about the systems we've built? Asked Maria Santos, one of our newer team members. Will they just be shut down and replaced? According to the plan Nash outlined, our platform will be gradually phased out as clients are migrated to commercial solutions, Patricia replied. The institutional knowledge we've built over 3 years will essentially be discarded. I spent the weekend thinking about the implications of Dataflow's decision, both for the company and for the clients we served. The more I considered the situation, the more convinced I became that leadership was making a fundamental error that would have serious consequences. On Monday morning, I requested a private meeting with Kellerman. His assistant initially tried to schedule something for the following week, but I emphasized the urgency of discussing client-related concerns before the transition process began. Kellerman's office occupied a corner of the 16th floor, with windows offering views in 2 directions across downtown Phoenix. The space was decorated with awards, client photos, and memorabilia from Dataflow's growth over the years. Kellerman gestured for me to take a seat in one of the leather chairs arranged around a small conference table. "Marcus, I appreciate you requesting this meeting," he began, "but I hope you understand that the strategic decisions we announced on Friday are final. We've invested considerable time and resources in developing this transition plan." "I understand that the decision has been made," I replied carefully, "but I'm concerned about potential consequences that might not have been fully considered. I'd like to share some specific examples of capabilities that will be lost during the migration to commercial platforms." Kellerman leaned back in his chair, his expression suggesting polite skepticism. "I'm willing to listen, but I should remind you that we've had extensive consultations with industry experts who assured us that modern analytics platforms can handle virtually any requirement our clients might have." I opened my laptop and pulled up detailed documentation about several of our most sophisticated analytical models. "Let me show you exactly what we've built for 3 specific clients, and you can judge for yourself whether commercial platforms could replicate these capabilities." The first example I presented was our predictive maintenance system for Aurora Industries, a precision machining company that manufactured components for aerospace applications. Their equipment operated under extremely tight tolerances, and even minor deviations could result in scrapped parts worth thousands of dollars. Our system monitors 17 different sensor inputs from each machine, analyzing patterns that indicate potential problems up to 3 weeks before failures occur, I explained, showing Kellerman real-time data from Aurora's facility. The algorithms account for tool wear patterns, material variations, environmental conditions, and complex interaction effects between different process parameters. I demonstrated how our system had identified a subtle vibration pattern that indicated bearing wear in one of Aurora's most expensive machines. Commercial platforms might be able to detect obvious anomalies, but they can't perform this kind of sophisticated pattern recognition that requires deep understanding of machining processes. Kellerman studied the data with growing interest. "This is certainly impressive, but surely commercial platforms include predictive maintenance capabilities." "They do," I acknowledged, "but their algorithms are generic. They can tell you that a machine is operating outside normal parameters, but they can't tell you why, or what specific actions to take to prevent problems. Our system provides precise recommendations because we understand Aurora's specific equipment and processes." The second example involved our quality control analytics for Sunset Electronics, a manufacturer of specialized circuit boards. Their production process involved dozens of variables that could affect final product quality, from material supplier variations to environmental conditions during different manufacturing steps. "We've developed correlation models that identify quality issues caused by interactions between multiple factors," I explained, showing Kellerman a complex analysis that had helped Sunset reduce defect rates by 43%. Commercial platforms can perform basic statistical analysis, but they can't handle the kind of multidimensional modeling required to understand these complex manufacturing processes. The third example was our most sophisticated work, a comprehensive optimization system for Phoenix Metals that simultaneously managed inventory levels, production scheduling, quality control, and equipment maintenance. The system had increased Phoenix Metals' overall equipment effectiveness by 28% while reducing inventory costs by 15%. This requires real-time integration of data from multiple sources, combined with optimization algorithms that understand the specific constraints and objectives of Phoenix Metals operations, I explained. "It's not just analytics, it's a complete decision support system that learns and adapts to changing conditions." Kellerman was quiet for several minutes as he reviewed the documentation I had presented. When he finally spoke, his tone was more thoughtful than dismissive. "I have to admit, this is more sophisticated than I realized. But surely these capabilities could be replicated using commercial platforms with sufficient customization and integration work." "That's exactly the point," I replied. The level of customization required would essentially mean rebuilding everything we've already created, but using tools that weren't designed for this kind of specialized work. It would take longer, cost more, and result in inferior solutions. I continued, moreover, commercial platforms are designed for users who want to do their own analytics. Our clients don't want to become analytics experts, they want to focus on manufacturing. They value our service because we handle all the complexity and deliver actionable insights. Kellerman stood and walked to the window, looking out at the city skyline as he processed what I had shared. Marcus, what you've shown me is undeniably impressive. But we also have to consider the broader business implications. We can't build our entire growth strategy around maintaining a small team of specialists who possess irreplaceable knowledge. I understand the scalability concerns, I said, but there are ways to grow our capabilities without abandoning our core strengths. We could develop training programs, document our methodologies, and build tools that leverage our expertise more efficiently. He turned back toward me, his expression serious. The board has made it clear that they want Dataflow to be a scalable, technology-driven company rather than a consulting firm dependent on individual expertise. The analytics transition is part of a larger strategy to standardize our operations. I realized that this conversation was about more than just analytics platforms or cost savings. It reflected fundamental disagreements about the type of company Dataflow should become and how it should serve its clients. The decision to eliminate our custom analytics approach was part of a broader transformation that prioritized operational efficiency over specialized expertise. I appreciate you taking the time to explain these technical details, Kellerman concluded, but the strategic direction has been set. We need to focus on executing the transition plan effectively rather than revisiting decisions that have already been made. As I left Kellerman's office, I understood that my presentation, while technically compelling, had failed to change the fundamental calculus driving Dataflow's transformation. The company's leadership was committed to a vision of growth and efficiency that didn't include room for the kind of specialized expertise our analytics team represented. The real test of their assumptions would come during the implementation of their new strategy. Over the following months, Dataflow would discover whether commercial analytics platforms could truly replace the capabilities we had built, and whether clients would be satisfied with standardized solutions instead of customized expertise. What happened next would determine not only my own future, but the fate of every client relationship we had spent years developing and every competitive advantage we had created through deep specialization and technical excellence. The first domino fell on a Tuesday morning in December, exactly 7 weeks after the commercial platform rollout began. I was consulting for a small manufacturing firm in Tucson when my phone erupted with emergency calls from Dataflow. The crisis had started at 4:23 a.m. when Copper Ridge Manufacturing's main production line shut down due to what their plant manager called complete analytical system failure. Copper Ridge produced specialized aluminum components for aerospace applications, where even microscopic defects could result in catastrophic failures. Our original custom system had monitored their extrusion process with precision that detected quality issues before they became visible to human inspectors. The commercial platform's generic monitoring had missed critical temperature fluctuations that resulted in an entire batch of components being scrapped, a loss valued at $340,000. Plant supervisor Linda Chen was furious when she called Dataflow's support line. "Your new system has been telling us everything is normal while we've been producing garbage for 6 hours, she shouted at the customer service representative. "We've lost an entire production run because your software can't tell the difference between acceptable variation and process drift." The commercial platform's dashboard showed green indicators across all metrics, displaying cheerful charts that suggested optimal performance. However, the standardized algorithms couldn't detect the subtle patterns that indicated bearing temperature irregularities in Copper Ridge's specialized equipment. Our custom system would have identified the problem within minutes and recommended specific corrective actions. Nash's technical team spent the entire day trying to configure the commercial platform to match Copper Ridge's requirements. They discovered that the vendor's advanced customization options were limited to adjusting threshold values and changing chart colors. The sophisticated pattern recognition that had protected Copper Ridge's production quality simply didn't exist in the standardized software. By the end of the week, 4 more clients had experienced similar failures. Desert Valley Plastics lost $180,000 when their injection molding process produced defective parts that weren't detected until customer complaints arrived. Mountain Peak Electronics faced potential regulatory violations when their quality monitoring system failed to identify contamination in their cleanroom environment. The most devastating failure occurred at Sunset Automotive, where our previous system had been preventing catastrophic equipment breakdowns through sophisticated vibration analysis. The commercial platform's generic predictive maintenance module failed to detect the early warning signs of a transmission failure in their primary assembly line. The resulting breakdown caused $2.3 million in damage and halted production. For 8 days, Patricia found herself working around the clock, traveling between client sites to provide emergency consulting and damage control. The stress was visible in her appearance, dark circles under her eyes, trembling hands when she thought no one was looking, and a persistent cough that suggested her immune system was compromised by exhaustion. "This is a disaster beyond anything I imagined," Patricia confided during a brief phone call between client visits. "We're not just losing money, we're destroying relationships that took years to build. These clients trusted us with their most critical operations, and we've essentially abandoned them with software that doesn't understand their needs." The crisis deepened when industry publications began reporting on data flows problems. Manufacturing Today published an article titled, "When Analytics Platforms Fail, The Hidden Costs of Generic Solutions," that featured detailed interviews with several affected clients. The article painted a devastating picture of a company that had sacrificed proven expertise for cost savings, resulting in massive losses for the clients who had trusted them. Competitor firms began aggressively pursuing Dataflow's clients, using the public failures as evidence that specialized analytics providers were more reliable than companies trying to standardize their operations. Superior Analytics Group, our main rival, launched a marketing campaign specifically targeting Dataflow clients with the slogan, "Real Expertise, Real Results," alongside case studies comparing their custom solutions to generic platform failures. The breaking point came during a joint client meeting in January that would determine Dataflow's survival. Representatives from 6 major clients, including Aurora Industries, Pinnacle Manufacturing, and Western Steel Works, had demanded a face-to-face explanation of how Dataflow planned to address the ongoing crisis. The meeting took place at the Phoenix Convention Center, in a conference room that felt more like a courtroom than a business gathering. The clients sat along one side of a massive table, their expressions ranging from angry to disappointed to completely fed up. Dataflow's executive team, including Kellerman, Blackwood, and Nash, occupied chairs along the opposite side, looking like defendants awaiting sentencing. Richard Hayes from Aurora Industries served as the unofficial spokesperson for the client group. "Robert, we've been partners with Dataflow for years. We've recommended your services to colleagues, defended your pricing to our boards, and integrated your analytics into our core operations. What we've experienced over the past 3 months has been nothing short of a betrayal of that trust." Hayes opened a folder containing printed reports and photographs. "Since switching to your new platform, Aurora has experienced equipment failures that your previous system would have prevented, quality issues that have cost us customer relationships, and operational inefficiencies that have reduced our competitiveness. We estimate our total losses at approximately $4.2 million. Janet Rodriguez, Aurora's maintenance supervisor, provided technical details that made the situation even more damning. "Your custom system could predict bearing failures 3 weeks in advance, identify optimal maintenance schedules for each piece of equipment, and recommend specific actions to prevent problems. Your new system provides generic alerts that are either too late to be useful or so frequent that we ignore them." She displayed comparison charts showing prediction accuracy rates. The custom system achieved 89% accuracy in failure prediction. The commercial platform has managed 31% accuracy, worse than random guessing. "We've had to hire additional maintenance staff just to compensate for the lost predictive capabilities." Pinnacle Manufacturing's operations director, Michael Torres, presented equally devastating evidence. "Dataflow's analytics used to optimize our production schedules, minimize waste, and maximize equipment utilization. The new system provides standard reports that tell us what happened yesterday, not what we should do tomorrow. Our operational efficiency has declined by 23% since the transition." Western Steel Works quality manager, Rebecca Martinez, showed photographs of defective products that the new system had failed to detect. "Your previous quality control algorithms understood our specific processes and material properties. They could identify problems that weren't visible to human inspectors. The new system uses generic defect detection that misses subtle issues until they become major problems." The litany of failures continued for over an hour, with each client providing specific examples of capabilities they had lost and problems they were experiencing. The cumulative effect was overwhelming. Dataflow had essentially destroyed millions of dollars worth of value for the clients who had trusted them. Kellerman attempted to respond with prepared talking points about the long-term benefits of standardized platforms and the temporary nature of transition challenges. However, his words rang hollow in the face of concrete evidence that his strategy was fundamentally flawed. "Robert," Hayes interrupted, "we don't care about your internal business strategy, or theoretical future benefits. We care about results. Your previous team delivered exceptional value by understanding our unique requirements and developing solutions that addressed our specific challenges. Your new approach treats us like generic customers with standard problems. Blackwood tried to deflect criticism by highlighting the cost savings that clients would eventually realize through the new platform. This argument backfired spectacularly when Torres calculated that Pinnacle's operational losses since the transition exceeded their total annual analytics costs by a factor of 12. You're asking us to pay for a service that's destroying value rather than creating it, Torres said bluntly. Even if your new platform was completely free, we couldn't afford to use it because of the operational losses it causes. Nash made a final attempt to salvage the situation by promising enhanced customization options and additional technical support. However, her credibility had been destroyed by months of failed promises and technical explanations that demonstrated her lack of understanding of manufacturing operations. We've heard these same promises for 3 months, Martinez responded. Meanwhile, our operations have suffered and our competitiveness has declined. We need solutions, not more promises about future improvements that may never materialize. The meeting concluded with an ultimatum that would force Dataflow to choose between survival and corporate ego. The client group, representing over 60% of Dataflow's revenue, demanded the restoration of custom analytics capabilities within 90 days. Failure to meet this deadline would result in mass contract terminations and the likely collapse of the company. We're not asking you to reinvent everything from scratch, Hayes clarified. We know that Marcus Chen and Patricia Vance have the knowledge and expertise to rebuild what was lost. The question is whether Dataflow's leadership is willing to admit their mistakes and empower the right people to fix them. The drive back to Dataflow's offices was silent except for the sound of Blackwood frantically calculating financial projections on his laptop. Kellerman stared out the window at the Phoenix skyline, perhaps contemplating the empire he had built and was now in danger of losing. Nash repeatedly checked her phone, possibly updating her LinkedIn profile in preparation for a job search. Emergency board meeting was convened that evening, with several members participating via video conference from different time zones. The discussion was heated and lasted until nearly 2 a.m., as board members struggled to understand how a successful company had been brought to the brink of collapse in less than 6 months. Board member Elizabeth Walsh, a veteran of several technology companies, was particularly critical of the decision-making process that had led to the crisis. How did we get to the point where we destroyed capabilities that were generating millions in client value? This wasn't a normal business risk, this was organizational malpractice. Another board member, Thomas Richardson, demanded accountability from the executive team. We approved a strategy to improve efficiency and reduce costs, not to eliminate the core competencies that made Dataflow successful. The execution of this initiative has been catastrophic. The board ultimately reached a consensus that shocked even the executives who had created the crisis. Kellerman would remain as CEO, but with significantly reduced authority over technical decisions. Nash would be reassigned to a non-client-facing role, while Blackwood would retain his position but with oversight from a newly appointed chief operating officer. Most significantly, the board authorized the immediate restoration of Dataflow's custom analytics capabilities under my technical leadership. Patricia would be promoted to Senior Vice President of Analytics Operations, with authority to rebuild the department and hire additional staff as needed. Kellerman called me at home the following morning, his voice carrying a mixture of desperation and humiliation that I had never heard from him before. Marcus, I need to ask for your help in a way that I never thought would be necessary. We're facing the potential collapse of everything we've built, and you're the only person who can save us. The conversation was surreal. The same executive who had dismissed our expertise as unnecessary complexity was now begging for our help to save his company. The irony was overwhelming, but the situation was too serious for satisfaction or vindication. What exactly are you proposing? I asked, maintaining professionalism despite the vindication I felt. Complete restoration of our custom analytics platform, with whatever resources you need to make it happen, Kellerman replied. You would have unlimited budget, hiring authority, and direct access to the board. The only constraint is time. We have 90 days to demonstrate significant progress or we lose our major clients. I spent the weekend considering the offer and developing a preliminary plan for what would essentially be a complete rebuild of Dataflow's analytics capabilities. The technical challenges were significant, but not insurmountable. The real question was whether the company's culture could support the kind of expertise-driven approach that would be necessary for success. On Monday morning, I accepted the position with several non-negotiable conditions. First, I would have complete authority over all technical decisions related to analytics platform development. Second, Patricia and I would jointly control the hiring process for new team members. Third, the commercial platform would be retained only for basic reporting functions, with all sophisticated analytics handled by custom systems. The next 90 days became the most intense period of my professional career. Working with Patricia and a rapidly growing team of talented analysts and engineers, we essentially rebuilt Dataflow's entire analytics infrastructure from the ground up. However, this time we incorporated lessons learned from both the original platform and the failed commercial transition. The new architecture combined the best aspects of custom development with modern cloud infrastructure and automated deployment systems. We retained the sophisticated modeling capabilities that clients valued while implementing operational efficiencies that addressed legitimate scalability concerns. The result was a platform that was both more powerful and more maintainable than anything we had built before. Client by client, we restored the analytics capabilities that had been lost during the commercial platform transition. However, we didn't simply recreate what had existed before, we improved upon it significantly. Aurora Industries received enhanced predictive maintenance algorithms that achieved 94% accuracy in failure prediction. Pinnacle Manufacturing got optimization models that increased their operational efficiency by 31% compared to pre-transition levels. The transformation extended beyond technical capabilities to include fundamental changes in how Dataflow approached client relationships and business development. Rather than treating analytics as a commodity service, the company began positioning specialized expertise as a strategic differentiator that justified premium pricing. The results exceeded everyone's expectations. Not only did Dataflow retain all of its major clients, but word of the successful restoration spread throughout the industry. New clients began approaching the company specifically because of its reputation for combining cutting-edge technology with deep domain expertise. Within 18 months, Dataflow's analytics revenue had increased by 240% compared to pre-crisis levels. The company expanded into new markets, opened additional offices, and began licensing its hybrid platform approach to other firms. The near-death experience had ultimately resulted in the creation of something significantly better than what had existed before. The crisis also fundamentally changed Dataflow's corporate culture and decision-making processes. The board implemented new governance structures that required technical input on all strategic technology decisions. Executive compensation was tied to client satisfaction metrics rather than just financial performance. Most importantly, the company embraced the principle that specialized expertise was a strategic asset to be developed and leveraged, not a cost to be minimized. Looking back, the failed commercial platform transition became a turning point that saved Dataflow from a much worse fate. Companies that successfully eliminated specialized expertise in favor of standardized solutions often found themselves trapped in commodity markets where price was the only differentiator. By rediscovering the value of deep domain knowledge, Dataflow positioned itself for sustainable competitive advantage in an increasingly automated world. The CEO who once said, "We don't need analysts like you," eventually became one of the strongest advocates for investing in specialized expertise. During a company-wide meeting 18 months after the crisis, Kellerman publicly acknowledged that the near collapse had taught him the difference between cutting costs and creating value. "We learned that true competitive advantage comes not from doing things more cheaply, but from doing things that others cannot do at all," he said. Our analytics team doesn't just process data, they transform information into insights that fundamentally improve how our clients operate. Today, Dataflow is recognized as an industry leader in manufacturing analytics, with a reputation for combining technological innovation with unmatched domain expertise. The company's success story is frequently cited as an example of how organizations can leverage specialized knowledge to create sustainable competitive advantages in highly automated markets. The lesson that Dataflow learned, and that many companies continue to discover, is that human expertise becomes more valuable, not less valuable, as technology becomes more sophisticated. The future belongs to organizations that understand how to combine human knowledge with technological capabilities in ways that create unique value for their clients. Sometimes the people you think you don't need are exactly the ones who can save everything you've built, if you're wise enough to recognize their value before it's too late. Looking for more? We've got 2 amazing stories ready for you right on screen. If this one touched you, these are absolutely worth your time. Click to watch them now. And hey, subscribe and hit that bell to never miss our latest uploads.